The greatest journey that a man can take is into his own heart, but so few do it. Why? Because it's scary. It's terrifying. So, what do we do? Is masculinity in crisis? Is the question. And if it is, what do we do about it? So let's explore that today. If you look around, what do you see? The majority of men, it feels like so many are walking around with a bit of a glazed look on their eyes as though life no longer holds any interest, no longer is an adventure. There's nothing really exciting. They've just kind of given up and have accepted their lot in life. Their life is boring, and you just do the responsible thing and work your job and provide for your family and let your wife put you on a little leash. And the marriage is stale, but it's too much work to really like get divorced, because why would you bother doing that? And I'm not proposing that you should. I don't believe that that's the right re- response, but the fire has died because nobody was tending to it. You know, in old ancient times, primal times, the fire was life. And the same thing is true within. The fire is your life. If it's gone out, you're in a dangerous position. But all is not lost. So if you find yourself that you're one of those men and you feel like, yeah, life is just kind of empty, or if you're struggling with that in some aspect, then stay with me. So I'm not here to judge and condemn you. I'm calling it out because it needs to be heard. And sometimes we need to be shook, shocked to be to wake the hell up to the reality, because you get to do something about it. It's your decision is the bottom line. Okay. You choose. You get to live as the hero or as the victim. And the hard reality is too many men have succumbed to living as a victim. So what's that look like? What else is going on? Masculinity in crisis. We don't really have that many good, strong men in our culture. Why? What's going on there? How long has it been happening? I'd say for several decades now that we've just, the past couple generations have lost their masculinity. They've succumbed to this idea of just being nice, tame, acceptable members of society. A nice, tame man. You put on your professional clothes, you go work your job, and it's regimented, and you sit in traffic and on your commute, and you come home, and hey, honey, I'm home, and maybe you get a train set in the basement. Sorry, guys, if train sets are your things, is your thing, like that's cool, but it's not really to rag on that specific hobby. It's just this idea that like everything's taken from you, and you might get your man cave. What happened to men, right? And on top of that, then it's escalated to this point where now we're being told that masculinity is actually bad, that it's not okay to be a man, that that because the masculine energy is dangerous and threatening. Why? Because it's strong, because it's powerful, because it's overbearing at times. And yes, it has the propensity, it has the capacity to be used for evil. All power does. And that's the problem, is that we've treated power as though it must be abdicated. You must not have power to keep yourself safe, which is a problem with smothering motherhood, which is what our society has leaned into, is an overly motherly society. Okay, and what if it doesn't have balance, it becomes unhealthy. That's true for either side, whether we're talking about the masculine or the feminine. Both of those energies need each other to keep each other aligned, in balance, and growing healthily. Because when nature just takes its course, it's destructive, right? There's order and there's chaos, and those things need to balance each other and bring harmony. And in that harmony, something more happens, something greater than the sum of the pieces, right? It's an exponential equation, but it has to be done properly. It has to be done with maturity, with respect, mutual respect, and also with the understanding that the one never gets to understand the other fully, right? So that's the thing. Every woman out there wants a great man. Underneath it all, that's what they're looking for. right? And if you're in a relationship, if you're married, I'm married, I've got 2 kids, by the way, right? If you're married and you're going through struggles in your marriage, men, we just got to give up on trying to like, oh, we're going to solve it rationally or figure this out or something, right? Bottom line, the only way that you can really help your marriage is to become a better man, to man up. And that term has been used too harshly in the past. I understand. So I don't want to just tell you man up and walk away and leave it at that and make you feel like shamed and guilty that you're not man enough. Right? None of us need that. We don't need more shame and guilt in our life. But let's look at how do we actually man up. As I said in the beginning, what is that journey and how do we take it? So masculinity is under attack, though. Is it in crisis? I think absolutely, right? Just so far, if we're just taking the first piece of this equation that I'm talking about, just the lack of men in our culture, that's already a crisis. Now, further from that, it's come under attack directly. And we're being told it's not okay to be a man. And men are feeling the pressure to not be a man and to be something else. And then you get to be celebrated. And now you're acceptable because you've castrated yourself. Good job. No, don't do it. Do not cast your power away. You will never respect yourself. That's the problem. So we live in a society where a lot of there is a great deal of there is a segment of society that has the pressure that you should castrate yourself, abdicate your power, and then will respect you. They don't respect you. No one will respect you. The worst part is you will never respect yourself. So do not cast away your power. And on the flip side of this, so we have the attack that masculinity is evil and the pressure to abdicate. And on the other side, the scary thing that I see is that there's scared little boys. They're scared little boys inside of a man suit. They've grown up. They've 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 aged, which we all do. We all mature physically, but we don't all mature emotionally and spiritually. Holistic maturity is a very different thing. So they're not men. They're scared little boys inside of a man's suit, right? And they don't know what to do about it. And they see all this pressure and they have the reaction against it to try to be, well, I'm going to try to be a man. I'm going to be a real man. And it's a good intention, but it goes askew because it's reacting against this attack. And it's trying to do something external, which is to pretend to be a man, to act like a man. And it gathers quite a following, unfortunately, because which all the more just shows us that masculinity is in crisis because we're so desperate for real manhood, real masculinity that will fall prey to little boys, scared little boys who put on a good show of acting confident, which is very different from real confidence, bravado, the persona of confidence, right? You can learn it. Absolutely. Does it make you a great person? Not at all. Right? Same thing with masculinity. Can you act masculine? Absolutely. Are you masculine? That's the question. And what is the measure of masculinity? That becomes a whole nother question. What is masculinity? I'm going to go on that track. This video is going to get too long, so we're not going to do that today. But stay tuned because that's part of the discussion. What is masculinity? But part of why we don't need to go into that right now is because you don't need to understand what is masculinity. You just need to do the journey. And that's key for men. All of us need to remember this and to hear this and be reminded of this, that it's about engaging with the right work. Because that's part of the journey for men. We long to work. That's the energy, is to create the creative order, right? To create something, to build something, to leave a legacy. All men long to leave a legacy, and very few do. A legacy that's remembered. Here's the other flip of that: is you're already leaving a legacy. The question is, what is it? Is it a legacy of pain? Is it a legacy of trauma? Right? Is it a legacy of passing on your emotional pain and baggage onto your kids because you never deal with it because you don't know how? And look, not knowing how, that's okay. Find out how. Because at the end, you never get to be a victim. None of us do. You don't get to be a victim. You can have excuses or you can have results. You don't get to have both. And the reality is, even underneath that, is that all you have are results. There are only results. And those results come from a cause, which is you. You are the cause of your life. So again, you don't need to understand what is masculinity. You just have to begin the journey. And the journey begins with taking ownership and laying claim to the fact, the truth, that your life is your making. And you, and only you, have the power to change it. So don't be the victim, your wife, of society, of the pressure that says it's not okay to be a man. You can learn how to be a man. We can all learn to be better men. The journey was not easy for me. It was excruciatingly painful. I spent most of my life feeling like a little boy inside and trying these things to look like a man, to act like I'm confident, because if I can fake it, I'll make it. And it's not true. It's detrimental. Right? So it looks bleak, I suppose. If we would take a step back and look at what I'm saying, it looks pretty damn bleak. On the one side, we have an attack, the masculinity, the pressure that masculinity is not okay, and you shouldn't be a man. Which, interestingly, women express like it's now a cultural. It doesn't discriminate only to men. Is the point here being that the insidious message underneath it is it's not okay to be you. That you need to be something you're not, and then you can be accepted and celebrated. You tried to be something else. You abused your own image. You abused yourself, and now you're acceptable. That's disgusting and wrong. Right? The greatest thing we can do is heal ourselves, not further traumatize and abuse ourselves. So, the journey of healing is key. So we live in a world where there's that voice far to the left that says who you are is not okay and you should be something else that you're not, and abuse yourself in the process, and then we'll accept you and praise you. And then you could say, I suppose, too far to the right, sort of. These kind of terms are a bit loose. I'm not always a big fan of it, but we'll say the reaction to that. On the one side, you could say it's the overpraise of femininity, which is ironic because it also puts pressure on women not to be feminine, but to be masculine. So that's bizarre and just completely makes no sense logically. And I'm talking actual, study of logic, as in logical fallacies, etc. It's a total fallacy. It's absolutely idiotic. And then too far on the other side is this overreaction of trying. Oh, it's like, oh yeah, I'll be a real man, but it's no longer actually seeking true manhood. It's just reacting against all this stuff. They say you can't do this. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it's okay to cheat and just treat women like they're a tool. And so ultimately, it's an undervaluing of women, which again breaks the cycle. It breaks the healthy dynamic, which is difficult to strike that balance, and why it's so key. Because it doesn't mean giving your power away. It doesn't mean letting somebody else abuse you by any means, but it neither does it mean to become an abuser. So that's the way we could put it. On the one side, we're abused. On the other side, we become an abuser. And then in the wash, in between is just the butt of life sucks, but I've accepted it because that's the responsible thing to do. Just kind of given up because what? Maybe because at that point maybe they're actually smart enough to realize that the other two options aren't any good anyway. So why bother when it feels like you have no good options left? And that's where I just want to come back to. Listen, right? All is not lost. It's not a hopeless situation. We, my brothers, can work together as brothers to grow and to rebuild, to reclaim masculinity, to rebuild masculine culture in a healthy way, in a mature way, which is the understanding of kinghood, that the king is the servant to his people. He is not the entitled little brat who's a scared little boy who sits on the throne like a tyrant and is terrified that somebody's after his throne. So again, that's those little scared little boys that are teaching masculinity. They don't understand it. Because fear is at the root of it all. Fear, which manifests as anger and strength even, right? Because it can look very strong to be angry and domineering, but it's not true strength. Because it all comes from insecurity and the threat, the fear at the core that somebody's after my throne. right? And on the other side, it says that, oh, well, no man should be on the throne. We should only have queens, I guess, or some such nonsense. But every great king has a great queen, and vice versa. So, kinghood is the understanding that you are there to serve your people. Who are your people? If you're a father, it's your children. Fatherhood is kinghood, is leadership. Great leadership is never about getting to the top of the pack, which is this neurotic idea of being the alpha, which is just totally abused. The concept is abused, and we'll talk about that another time. Being the leader is to place yourself beneath and lift up. Who are you responsible for? That's the purpose of masculine energy, right? Is the strength, the power, the adventurous spirit, the desire to create, to conquer. For what? For the sake of others, not for yourself. And that's where maturity is found. When you do it for the sake of others, you grow for yourself and you will respect yourself. So you do get to have it all when you let go of your selfish desires. So let's engage with this together. That's really the call. That's my point with this video to wrap up, right? The answer is where I started in the beginning. The answer is to take the greatest journey that you can take, which is into your own heart. As every culture understood, boys need initiation into manhood. We need the realization that we're not here and we have all this power, this energy, this strength, and it's not here. It's not for us. It's for others. And that we're not going to be a beneficial member of society until we learn to harness that in service to others. And even those of you who want to talk about being sigmas and a lone wolf, you don't understand your role. I'll speak to that at another time because the alpha, sigma, beta, all this kind of thing, there's truth to it. It's generally misunderstood and again abused. Doesn't mean being a lone wolf. You still have a way that you are of service to others. You just don't fit into the hierarchy the same way. I know because I am one. Okay. So the answer, though, comes back to go into your own heart, take the journey. How? We'll talk more about that. Commit today that you will. That's the key. Take the next step. How will reveal itself to you when you engage with it? So ask the question, how do I? And then listen and wait for the response. Turn off the phone, stop doom scrolling, get off social media, right? Of course, the algorithm here is going to promote something else to you and you're going to want to watch it. Ask yourself the question before you do, is it beneficial? Will I respect myself more or less after I do this? Okay. How do you go into your own heart? Ask yourself, what can I do today to go into my own heart and take that step? Conquer the fear because that's what's going to hold you back from doing it because it is a scary place to go. But when you take that journey, you become a man. That is the way that we can claim our own initiation today as men because it doesn't matter if you're 16 or you're 40, you still have that opportunity to initiate yourself into manhood because it's the deepest pain, right? Is to get older and realize I'm still not a man. I hoped that by the time I hit 20, or like finally start to feel like a man, and that didn't happen. And then a decade later, I hit 30, right? And I'm still struggling. And that's when that's when I took the journey serious and started to actually do the work. And that's what led to the transformation. And that's why I'm making this channel here now, is on this side of it, almost 4 years later. Trying to remember like what was the pinpoint, right? Because there was a lot of events that happened. So that's why this channel's here. So subscribe is my request of you. If you benefit from this, please do subscribe. It means a lot to me. Leave a like and comment. That's a big deal. I'm here to have a conversation with you to support you in your journey. If I come across as harsh, forgive me. I'm here to support you. I care about you and your growth and your journey of growth. I'll have more resources available to support you in that, so stay tuned. If you want to learn more about the work that I do as a coach, go on over to unshakable.pro. If you're ready to take that step, you can take a look at what those steps look like. Otherwise, like and subscribe, leave a comment. Let's have a conversation and look for the next video as we continue on this journey of reclaiming our masculinity and rebuilding masculine culture as a brotherhood of conscious mature men. Thanks for watching.